So I'm now, city jail has now gone to county, which is a totally different monster.
There's
I'll
no
never
wiggling
forget.
out of that.
Oh, hell no. No. I wasn't just in here with like hookers and a couple people that got drunk at a bar. I'm now in, it's a different thing.
Yeah.
The Sugar Plum Fairy has gone to jail.
Yeah, you're in the big
Straight up.
leagues. Hey y'all, what's going on? Welcome back to the Stacking Days podcast. I am your host, Ray Donovan, as always, and I'm extremely excited about the conversation that we're going to be having today. We have a real trailblazer joining us, the first African-American, the first Black principal ballerina for the Houston Ballet, and frankly, one of the first principal Black ballerinas in the country. She's been sober for 15 years. And I'm just so excited to get into the conversation. So without further ado, let me stop talking. And Lauren Anderson, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I've been following your journey for as long as I've been sober. I think that, I'm coming up on 3 years in September here, and you obviously have been sober for quite some time and also very vocal about it. So when I started looking for faces that reminded me of my family members who have voices that sounded like my aunties and what have you, I automatically gravitated to you and have been following you for some time. So the fact that I'm able to sit here and chat with you on the Stacking Days podcast means a lot. So thank you for making the time.
Absolutely. 3 years is huge.
Thank you.
But we only have today.
Yep.
That's why I love that title, Stacking Days. That gives me life. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
I certainly subscribe to that, and I know that it certainly resonates with you. I can't wait to get into that today with you. I want to talk about your relationship with alcohol and kind of how it started. I know that you've been sober for quite some time, so let's go back into time, so to speak, and start us off from where it all began for you.
Well, it's interesting. It started where I find that a lot of us start our relationship at that barbecue with our dads, sneaking that little sip from mom. My dad was is a Kappa.
Okay.
Kappa Alpha Psi, for those who don't know what a Kappa is. And so we go to these Kappa picnics, and I was about 7 or 8, 6, 7 or 8, probably 7 or 8. And, Daddy, can I have a sip of beer? And yeah, a sip. And that was that, tickle the nose a little bit, and that's good. However, I'd have to say when my cousin got married, I was a hostess at the wedding, along with my other cousin that was a hostess at the wedding, and we were pouring the champagne. Mm. And of course, we poured one for us, one for you, one for us. And we just, I was probably 11 or 12 and just giddy. And Grandpa said, my mom's mad because I'm now drunk.
Right.
I'm a drunk little 11-year-old. And my cousin and I are sitting over there sneaking, quote unquote, sneaking when everybody's watching us drink. And he's like, oh, we're at a family gathering. It's okay. Right. She should be, it's that story. It's kind of how it started. But when I realized how much I enjoyed that escape feeling that I got, I was 11th grade. I went to Lamar Senior High here in Houston, Texas. I was dancing. I've been dancing since I was 7 years old. So I was kind of teased about the way I walked and all that. Didn't really like high school that much because I wasn't in a popular group, that type of thing. But I was smart and I danced. However, they had these trees on the front lawn and all the popular people were at one tree, the cheerleaders were at this other tree, and I found myself at this other tree, the lowrider hanging out tree where you could get stoned in the morning and not have to deal with all the pressures of, high school.
Yeah.
And so we had a final, and I'll never forget, you have 2 hours off in between, and we went to lunch, and the only thing my friends had in the cooler was beer. And it's, it's hot in Houston, and it's May. So I'm eating Frenchie's chicken, and I don't have anything to drink, but they got beer, so I guzzle half a beer. Well, I wasn't a beer drinker. I wasn't a drinker, really, at all. And I guzzle half a beer, because it's cool, and I go back to this final, and proceed to sit there and kind of just go to sleep.
Mm.
And I wake up at the end of the final, and I got like 5 minutes to this 2 hour final, and yeah, so that's when I mean, yeah, that I should have known something then, but of course I didn't.
Mm.
That happened, and then of course there was fallout because my father was an assistant principal, and the assistant principal came in, so there was a whole fallout thing there with my dad asking me, "So what happened at school yesterday?" "Nothing, Daddy,"
Mm.
type thing. Um, let's fast forward to I graduate from high school. I become a dancer in the Houston Ballet, and now I'm at the age of 17 on tour to Canada and all these other places and Europe, and it's not a big thing, and drinking after having champagne and wine and stuff in the after the performances. I mean, it's just kind of just, and that's social drinking, right?
Right.
It's social. However, when I'm on tour and I'm away from home, every single time I drank, I was beyond.
Mm.
And was always looking for, hanging out with the crew and looking for the party and staying up later. But then I bounce back the next day because I'm dancing all day. And the first thing you do in class is sweat. So I'm sweating everything out. So it's not a big deal. And I'm 20
Yeah.
at this time, 20, 25. And so that carries on for a while. And the pattern that looking back, I saw that every time, not every single time I drank, but whenever anything took off in a negative way, I'm smashed,
Yeah.
or I've blacked out, or the party extended until 5 in the morning, and I found other things because the party needs to keep going, and I found marching powder and other things to
Keep it going.
keep the party going, and um, it was fun until it wasn't, and I got to a point where I couldn't stop, and I think that had to have been around in my 30s.
Mm.
Um, and I've been married and divorced 2 or 3 times at this point, and I get married to my third husband, and I've got this situation that I'm going to try to control because he does not. I mean, he's a jazz musician and he drinks, but he doesn't. I mean, he doesn't go beyond.
Yeah.
It's interesting. He doesn't go over the edge. Well, I was already over the edge and hiding drugs already, and we
Where
get
are
married.
you trying to manage this
Oh, I'm trying to manage it, honey. No,
and
I'm managing.
hide it essentially from him,
Oh,
right?
from him and the rest of I'm hiding because I've been the prima ballerina. I've been the ballerina. I've been in the company since 1983.
Well,
I get in Houston Ballet. Let's go back. I get in Houston Ballet in 1983. I become a soloist in 1987, and I become the first black principal dancer in 1990.
mm.
So from 83 to 90, this has kind of been building, and about 90, I'm in this horribly abusive relationship. So I kind of stopped drinking because I need to be on guard for this maniac that I live with.
Mm.
So I kind of stopped drinking there. So I can manage it. I figure if I can stop for a few years, I can manage it. Well, then I start back up once he's gone, way past where I was when I quit.
Mm.
As if I never stopped drinking.
Yeah.
And I am off to the races and everything's great. I'm a principal dancer. Life is amazing. Um, and I keep that up for 15 years. Uh,
Well,
I'd say.
let me ask you a question. I mean, I am, just for everyone out there, I'm not a ballerina, and I don't. But I would imagine and that it takes quite a bit to just be a ballerina, generally speaking, let alone a principal ballerina for one of the premier companies in the country, and a black woman at that. You are in the spotlight. Everyone's making sure that that you. I'm sure you're sitting there saying, if I make one misstep here, I'm doing not only
I'm out.
I'm out for me, I'm out for my people, the whole nine, right?
The whole nine.
So the pressure of that must have been tremendous. Was that part of like the why? Did the drinking help tamper down the pressure, or was it just a matter of like culturally that's what you did in the art? I'm just trying to get a sense of what it looked like in the 80s for you as you're trying to like push through all of these glass ceilings.
Okay, so for me, I'm not pushing through glass ceilings. I'm just dancing.
Gotcha.
Okay, for the rest of the world, I'm pushing through glass ceilings and I'm representing.
Yep.
Now, am I representing for my community and my family and Black people and on in my DNA? Absolutely. Am I feeling that? Yes. Do I feel I've always felt the pressure of that. Since I walked in here, I was different, and I've always felt that I didn't belong, but not because I'm Black in the beginning, just because I just felt that way.
Yep.
I've always felt like I wasn't good enough. I have a perfectionist, control freak. Um, I have to be
Driving the
in
ship.
control of the thing,
Yep.
right? I have to man the ship, and I have to be the best. I have to be number one. I mean, that's just kind of my mentality. I was raised by my dad, single parent, um, near the end. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, like probably from 13, and he was in the army and he was a principal of school. I mean, he's just,
Just a
it was
regimented
that
dude.
regimented.
Yeah.
Like, you sweep on the weekends. We got to move all the furniture to
Okay.
sweep on the weekends and then put it all back. It's like that. Okay. So, but all of that made me a really good dancer
Mm.
because it made me a good soldier. And it's just, it made me good at my craft
Gotcha.
along with the artsy fartiness of my mom. So I've got that going on top. So it worked out. And I can say that whole feeling, and I try to help dancers with this, or artists, or kids, or people, um, because we all feel not good enough for something.
Yeah.
We can all relate to it, no matter whether you're whoever, in whatever situation. But I think the microscope, I mean, the look of a ballerina doesn't even include the word. Well, back in the day, it's different. It's a little bit different now. Not really, but it's supposed to be. The look of a dancer doesn't even include brown.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you think of a ballerina, you think of pink and fluffy and white and soft. And nobody, except for, I mean, Black people, think of women as vulnerable. When you think of a Black woman, you think of a strong, that person who can run the household, that can keep it going no matter what.
Yep.
You think of the strong,
Yeah. She could save the
and
country.
she could say, then there's that. That's a whole nother conversation. But I mean, you don't think of this vulnerable, wafy. So, in wanting to be all of that, in wanting to be the Sugar Plum Fairy, and wanting to be Cinderella, I never felt good enough. The awesome thing is when I went home, I felt awesome because I would smoke a joint and have a glass of wine or two or three or four or five, and then it's going to be a party, and then I'm going to do the. Yeah, it became all that until I started just doing it at home, and it wasn't a party,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm hiding it now from Kyle,
Right.
my ex-husband, my now ex-husband, who was then my husband, right? Um, and then, lo and behold, I become pregnant.
Mm.
So I'm in control because the moment I found out I was pregnant, I stopped drinking, I stopped smoking, I stopped doing all the things, every single thing. I stopped,
Mm.
like at that moment
Can I ask?
until
Can I ask you a question about that? Because I hear this all the time from in all the podcasts that I've listened to, accounts of women's stories who've become pregnant. They most of the time they're stopping during pregnancy, turning it off, similar to like how you did.
it's
What is that? What is
bizarre.
that
It's
phenomenon?
weird.
Yeah. How do you do that?
Well, no, hold on. You do it for a certain amount of time. It doesn't stay off.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, you know, it stayed off, and then I breastfed for 2.5 months, and I pumped as much as I could and froze as much as I could. And literally, when I knew that I wasn't going to breastfeed the next day, I had a line of cocaine right there and a glass of wine, literally right there. The last feeding
Mm-hmm.
and the last pump, I put it in the freezer and leaned over and snorted a line of cocaine. Once I knew that it wasn't going to affect that kid,
Yeah.
well, I thought it wasn't going to affect my child, then I mean, I could not believe how I obsessed about that for months.
Mm.
Months obsessed about it. Planned when I was going to stop because I knew I was going back in the studio, so I wouldn't be able to breastfeed, blah, 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 blah. And literally 2.5 months after I had Lawrence, I was back to the races. And all the cravings and everything was worse than when I stopped before I eat. Yeah. But in my brain, because your brain is out to kill you, by the way,
Yeah.
it literally was like, but you're in control. You still have your job, you still have your husband, you have a son, you're successful.
Yep.
But now I'm 38.
Hmm.
I'm 38 years old. My body hurts. Um, it's harder to get up after 2 in the morning. Okay, so the thing is, let's tell you the schedule. Uh, my ex-husband was a jazz saxophonist, so he's playing until 2 in the morning. So I'm putting Lawrence down at 6:30 or 7, and I'm off to the races until about 1:15, where I gotta clean up all the whatever, who knows what I've done.
Yeah.
Right, I gotta put the whole life back together and pretend like I'm asleep when I'm wide awake.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just chaos.
I mean, and just it sounds like an extreme amount of mental and physical energy poured in to trying to like re-cement this foundation that you've this
Every night,
yeah.
every night.
Wow.
It was like Groundhog Day, crazy. Until I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't, and the wheels fell off. Um, when I'm going to teach at a summer intensive somewhere. Oh, Dallas, Fort Worth. And I'm on my way to the airport, and I get pulled over because I'm probably speeding.
Mm.
And when I get pulled over, I go to jail because I have warrants for my arrest because I got a ticket at some point that I forgot to pay. And then if you don't pay and then you don't go to court, that's the warrants for not paying and the warrants for not going to court. So I got 4 warrants. So they got to take me in.
Yeah.
I get in the back of the car, and the guy's looking at me in the rear view. He goes, "I know you from somewhere." I said, "Well, I'm a dancer with the Houston Ballet, and digga 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 dig," like that. And I'd retired by that point, 2 or 3 years before, and but I still worked for the ballet, and I still do work for the ballet. But I'm going on about this. He goes, "You're my wife's favorite ballerina. That's who you are." He goes, "Damn, I've already pushed the button," which means I have to go in because
Yeah.
he's already pushed the button that they're taking me in.
Yeah.
He goes, "But you'll probably, don't worry about it." So I wasn't cuffed. I could use my phone. So I'm calling people, getting a friend to like, "Look, I'm about to go down to the thing. You got to bail me out because it's not like I haven't done this before.
Yeah.
You got to bail me out. Blah, blah, blah. I'll pay you when I get out. Da, 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 da. Lo and behold, the night before when I was packing, I'm sure I'd gotten some blow. And I had a little baggie in my wallet or something that I'd forgotten about, I guess. And there wasn't anything in it. Well, there was a trace in it.
Sure.
And that's all that there has to be in there. So I'm now, city jail has now gone to county, which is a totally different monster.
Mm.
And
There's
I'll
no
never
wiggling
forget.
out of that.
Oh, hell no. No, 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 no. No. And I was the last person in the little car. We go down to county, and it was totally different. It was not the little pajama party that is city jail, which people probably wouldn't think that, but when you're fucked up, that's what you think, right? And I go to county, and the seat is cement, and there's like this crackhead sleeping on me because she's been up all night, and the people walking in over there that are chained to each other have blood on them because they've been fighting. And I wasn't just in here with like hookers and a couple people that got drunk at a bar. I'm now in. It's a different thing.
Yeah.
The Sugar Plum Fairy has gone to jail.
Yeah. You're in the big
Straight up,
leagues.
straight up. And I was like, and my head goes. I go, how? I literally have this moment of WTF? How did I get here? And I'm sitting there with this chick sleeping on me over here, and I'm looking around and I'm going, really, Lauren? Really? I mean, and there was this moment of clarity, like a second of, okay, okay, I got to do something.
Yeah.
And I don't even know what it is.
but I got to do something.
And I did know what it was because, believe it or not, Kyle, my ex-husband, said to me before, "Do you need help with?" He was trying to figure it out. At this point, I didn't know that he'd found some stuff around, and he was accusing the kids. He's like, "Did y'all do? Did you get this from school?" And he didn't say anything to me.
Because how old is Lawrence at that point?
Lawrence is when I got sober, he was 6,
Okay.
so he was probably 5.5
Okay.
or 6. He may have been 6, because this was 2009.
Okay.
Um, and so now I've got a case, and I've got a lawyer. I get a lawyer. Well, first, okay, I got a case first, and I have to go to court. However, I was on my way to the airport to go to Fort Worth to teach. Now, the only way I'm gonna be able to pay this chick back who has bailed me out is if I go teach. I need to get to the airport and teach. So I go to the car that's in thing. I get my bag and I take off for the airport. My parents are in Aruba, and Kyle is on a cruise ship playing a jazz cruise. So somebody's bailed me out. She left a note on my dad's door of where I am. Kyle, I can't get a hold of. He's, you know, they get back. I take off for Fort Worth to go. Now, when I get to Fort Worth, do you think I stop drinking and drugging? No. I get there, I drink the whole time, I smoke weed, I don't do anything else. And when I get back, I gotta go to court.
Right.
I get back, I get an attorney, I tell my dad what happened. I do not tell Kyle. I'd say to him, that I have to go to court. I got some traffic stuff. I gotta. Now Kyle is known all over Houston. He got friends everywhere.
Mm.
He finds out about the court case. He shows up in court that day.
Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying the episode. If you are, we'd really love it if you could leave us a rating and a review on Apple Podcast or a rating on Spotify. And of course, please feel free to invite somebody into the conversation. If you feel like you have a story to share on the podcast, why not apply to be a guest? You can do so by completing the form on the podcast description or find it on stackanddays.com. That's stacknday's.com. But for now, let's jump back into the conversation.
I mean, it's a storm. I'm there with my dad. He goes, you need to tell your husband. You need to tell your husband. I'm like, yeah. Let's just get through this. Cause I don't even know. So I get there. We go through this whole thing. Kyle sits down next to me and grabs my hand and holds my hand. And I start crying. I get up to the thing. And the best thing that happened, Judge Regan, I'll never forget, she saved my life. She goes, okay, Lauren Anderson, my favorite ballerina is Lauren Anderson, and I couldn't have been any smaller. I look up at her, and she started stamping stuff. Deferred adjudication. I don't want to see you back in this court for 365 days. As long as you don't do anything wrong, You have to go to probation for a year, pay Crime Stoppers $500, do 200 hours of community service, and get this paper signed. Yes, you have to go to 12-step meetings for a year. You have to have this paper signed for a year. So these are all the conditions of your deferred adjudication. You step out of line in any of this, you're a felon.
There you go. Wow.
That was enough for me.
That's a lot.
All of that together was enough for me. The Sugar Plum Fairy going to jail I thought was enough, but I still went and drank and did drugs. Anyway, all of that together was enough. Kyle put his wedding band on the television. He said, I'm done. He said, I love you. I will support you, and I will help you get help. Do you want help? I said, I need help. He said, great. He made some phone calls. I talked to my attorney. I ended up at the park. It's treatment, basically. We filled out all the paperwork, did all the things. This kind of freaked me out. They said, okay, well, she can do outpatient. I was like, you're letting me out? So I had to do this outpatient thing and sit in I hated it. Oh my goodness, I hated it in the beginning. I had to go and sit in a group with people for 2 hours every day. It was horrible. It was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Sorry, go ahead.
And I had to do community service. So I had to find time I'm working at Houston Ballet from 9 to 5. I've got classes I teach on the side on the weekends. And I got to figure out how to fit in 200 hours of community service before this year is up. And how can I do that? I can't do it during the week because they're closed after work. I have to do it on the weekends. How can I make this happen? So I don't teach any classes on Saturdays. That's just got to go. I don't have time. I need to do this community service. So I did 9 or 10 hours every Saturday until I'd done all my time. That was huge for me because I was in there with everybody else that was a felon that was doing this
Mm-hmm.
with my gloves on, sorting through crappy clothes and whatever at this place that gives money. It's Northeast Community. They help people out with food and diapers and housing and all that. So I was working at this place, and I met the most amazing people, and the humility that came out of that was awesome. That, along with the $500 of Crime Stoppers, fine.
Yeah.
That, along with going to that probation officer and having to do a UA every month, whenever they called.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah,
Wow.
that, and then having to have that paper signed. So I had to start going to AA meetings. When my first that whole thing was assigned, I was going out of town. So I did that in Troy, Michigan. I went to my first AA meeting in Troy, Michigan. Sat around this table with 11 white women at 10 o'clock in the afternoon, in the morning. And I'm like, why are these women not working? Don't they have to work? Who are these people?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, I do not belong here. And I'm sitting there just my legs shaking. And this old woman, older than dirt, grabbed my knee and she said, baby, you just don't have to drink today.
Mm.
And I looked at her. And in my head, I went, how you know? In my head. But then I listened to what they had to say. And it was a bunch of moms who had guilt and shame and didn't feel good enough.
Mm. Yeah. That there's no color on that.
That was the great equalizer. Alco- Addiction, alcoholism, um, uh, yeah. I it took a minute for me to say I'm an alcoholic. It took a minute for me to say I'm an alcoholic, and then it took another minute for me to say I'm an addict.
Mm.
I but um, I finally found a place that I belonged and felt comfortable
Mm.
with all these other people because we had the exact same thing,
No, that makes sense.
right? And it took me a while to see that I'm just a human being human. I'm a human being. And that actually we all have the same thing. Just that we're just being human, right? Just like everybody in the whole world.
Trying to.
It opened my eyes to a lot, to how I connect with the entire community, not just my little bubble, this little bubble of life that I live in. That my actions affect the world. But of course, I didn't think my addiction and my alcoholism affected my kid or my husband or my family. I was still so, I mean, I still didn't see that. It took a minute to see that also. So anyway, so I have the case. I do the things. I'm kicking and screaming on the inside, but I'm fabulous on the outside. So I'm still acting.
Mm.
I'm still acting. I'm still pretending. Um, but I fake it till I make it, and I finally settle down and sling a lot of snot, a lot of tears in meetings in front of people because I didn't cry in front of people because I'm tough and I have to be. Um, but I did. I mean, I finally um, got honest with myself. Well, I knew I had a problem, but I didn't know that I was. I
Right.
mean, I didn't know that. I thought my problem was drugs and alcohol. That's what I thought my problem was, and come to find out, my problem is how I feel about myself and that less than and all that other hiding and acting and being somebody else,
Yeah.
trying to please all the people
I.
and be all the things that's expected. I think is expected of me.
Yeah. You said it. This idea of like the expectations that you've created for other people, thinking that they've created those for you. It's like such a a twisted web to be trying to escape from. I got to that same place, and I'm still trying to work that out. But um, I got
I think age helps with that. I think age helps with that.
yeah.
I do think maturity and that thing, because if you think about how your parents feel about, and it's funny because okay, let's think about the crotchety old man. The crotchety old man doesn't care how anybody feels about him. That's how he feels. That's just how he is, and we accept him because he's just a crotchety old man.
Hmm.
I want to feel like that a long time ago.
Yeah.
Not I don't have to be crotchety, but I want to.
Self-empowered
Uh,
and yeah.
yeah, because the peace that comes with that is amazing. So what's awesome? So I go to this meeting. That first meeting, I get past that, and they tell me I have to get some chip, 24-hour chip. And I'm like, why do I have to get this chip? Well, get it. So I get it, and I come home, and I need to keep up these meetings because I have to get that paper signed now every day
Mm.
for a year, every day. So I have to go to
Wow.
some kind of 12-step meeting every day. So, and I'm still in IOP in this outpatient program. So I go to the outpatient program, and they had something called relapse prevention. And relapse prevention were these 12-step meetings, which I didn't know. I thought these people were coming in line saying that they'd gone to like 7 meetings that week when we do our relapse kind of thing. I'm like, I didn't do any relapse prevention. So finally, after I mandated these meetings, I got to come back, and I was actually quite proud to say I did 7 meetings, and they all kind of turned their head like, "What? The one over there that doesn't do?" And then we talked about it, and then they kind of guided me to where I could go in Houston. And actually, that's still my home group, and I still go to meetings. Now, do I go every morning? No. I found out that I like to go in the morning, but what I had to do since I had the paper is I'd go after work at 6:30 after work because I could get through the traffic and get to this meeting consistently. I started going there, and I got a group of people that I could hang out with, and they taught me how to do things sober. Like I went to a picnic 2 weeks later. I'm like, yeah, right,
Was
sober picnic, really?
it was a sober picnic?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like, really? Yeah, nobody who goes to a picnic and doesn't have it. I mean, I was avoiding these things because I didn't think I could do anything.
Yeah.
How am I gonna how am I gonna go to this picnic and not have a drink? What? And not drink before I get there. So, because then there's that. I used to drink before I'd go, so I wouldn't get there and drink as much.
Yeah. Or or,
So
or
and
or
it's
or at least feel a little bit more comfortable once you get there to
oh no, I just need to be able to walk in the door, so I need a couple drinks anyway,
yeah.
right? And smoke a cigarette. I mean, I was doing all the things. So I'd go with these people. These I had sober friends and sober people I hung out with. I didn't call them friends yet. Sober people I hung out with, and I went, and we were the loudest people in this area, having the most fun. It was. I needed that group of people that were doing the thing that I'm supposed to be trying to do, or I wouldn't have ever done it. And it needed to be fun,
Yeah.
or I wouldn't have wanted to do it.
Was that the point in time where it became where you had less of a sense of this is just court mandated and I got to do this and you made that transition over to no. I actually am starting to enjoy this life and I want to see kind of where it goes for me and I enjoy this feeling even though it's very foreign to me. Like when did that is that when this transition started to happen for you?
That's when it was started to happen. So it was about, I'd say it was about a couple months in, a couple months sober. So I'd been going to these meetings now for about a month. Because we had to figure out when I got sober, like when I'd had my last drink, drug, and everything. So once we figured it out, and that is July 15th of '09, I had to figure out how many days I had because you get a chip. Okay, so I like applause. I like to walk out and have people clap. I like that.
Mm,
It's bizarre now, but I like that. Especially liked it back then because I just finished dancing. I just retired and I was Lauren Anderson, right? Not just Lauren.
right.
Um, I hadn't fired my representative yet. My representative was still showing up because I needed that safety. Everything felt foreign and new, and for me to feel secure, she has to come, you know. So she went everywhere with me for about a good 4 or 5 years. But I think once we went to that picnic, and then we did a barbecue, and then we did a dance, and there was a comedy thing. I mean, there were these things that I kept going to with these sober people that, wow, you can do this? I can do this and not drink? How does this, you know, yeah. And then of course I actually found a sponsor and I worked the 12 steps. And then they made me like help people.
Mm.
I'm like, what do you mean I got to
They
help people?
made you help people.
They made me help people. They said you need to talk with her. She's got like 20 days or something, and go get her number. She needs to be able to call you and talk to you about stuff. I'm like, what you mean? I gotta get her number? What do you mean? And it was like the best thing when I kind of got, I'd give people my number in the meetings and or at the gathering or when I was introduced. And um, the best thing was working with another alcoholic,
Mm.
a drug addict, and tell them just by not doing anything, but just by being you and having that thing in common where they feel comfortable, and then you can take them to a picnic or to a bar or to a football game
Mm.
or yeah.
There's something really freeing about not having to feel like you need to hide right in front of someone, even if they're a stranger.
That hiding in plain sight is a bitch.
Yeah.
Just that runaround of hiding in front of people, it's just a lot. It takes a lot of energy. I was exhausted. I did not know how exhausted I was
Yeah.
until I stopped hiding in plain sight. Let me tell you something even more freeing is when your stuff is splashed all over the newspaper.
Yeah.
Then there's that.
How do you deal with that? I mean, you're obviously
Well,
in a whole nother, especially in Houston. I mean, I'm sure you're walking down
it's
the street, everybody
small.
knows who you are.
It's big, but it's small. And I spent so much time from my whole life making sure that I did not step out of line and that I had to be, you got to be better to be counted as just as good. You can't, they're waiting for you to mess up. I'd hear that from mentors and people all the time. They're waiting for you to step out of line or not look right or whatever. And I literally, at that point in time when the story popped out, um, I had a manager and she said, okay, well, we need to manage this. This is how we're going to manage this. We're going to give somebody the story. You're going to tell the story. And what happened is they were supposed to wait until I told my son, because he was in middle school
Mm.
at this point. They were supposed to wait until the Monday or the next week to release the story. Once the editor saw the footage, they released it that night.
Yeah, they're probably
So all of a
salivating over it.
sudden, in an hour after I had done this interview, there was a little thing saying, Lauren Anderson reveals all. And then you see like a line of cocaine being snorted off a thing and
Jeez.
alcohol being put, and cop lights. And it was horrible.
Mm.
So I had to tell the board of the ballet. I had to, I had to tell a lot of people before 6 o'clock
Because now
news.
you're trying to manage this fallout.
Now I'm managing that. Yeah. I'm like, wait a minute, this is not how this was supposed to go. So that's fine. I could not believe all the letters of support that I got from all the people on the board,
Mm.
from just people in general. And then the amazing thing was the letters that I got saying, oh my goodness, I had felt this. Can I meet you? Can we? I'm like, look, I'm at the Postal Club at 6:30 in the morning. Come on down there. Meet me at a meeting. Or meet me in the, let's go have coffee or whatever. I can't believe how many people um, reached out wanting to talk, just to talk because they felt the same way.
Yeah.
And so then next thing I know, I'm now I went to go. I do this program called guest speaking. Being a black ballerina, you're going to do career days and stuff like that. I'm not going to school. I went to a place called Dress for Success, and these girls were graduating from this program, and I went to go talk about my, being a ballerina. So I'm talking. These girls are like, yeah, yeah, yeah. She ain't even. And then I said, but the one thing that makes me even more special is that I'm a recovering alcoholic. And all of a sudden everybody goes, and they're paying attention. So, and that was, it just came out. I was not meaning to, it just came out. And that gave me, that's a freedom that all of a sudden um, I felt that all this crap that I thought was really bad, the shame and guilt had purpose.
Yeah.
All the stuff that I had shame and guilt about had purpose. So then I redirected again. And my manager said to me, and she'd said it before, but she wasn't pushing. She goes, "Do you want to speak? You want to get on the not a circuit, but do you want to speak about this? Do I need to book? I could book this. We could, girl, you could help a lot of people."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Really?" And so then the wonderful poet laureate named Deborah Deep Mouton. She's spoken word poet laureate. She's an author. She's done librettos for the opera. She's done all kinds of stuff. Wanted to do a choreo poem
Mm.
about the arc of my life. And I was like, "Are you sure? You want to know about me?" Which is actually how it opens up. The actress comes on and sits down and makes a cup of coffee and goes, "You want to know about me?" So she took my words, which is beautiful. We did, and this was during COVID. It was funny you mentioned all this during COVID. Took my words. We did interviews, 3 years of interviews, as a matter of fact, and made it into this choreo poem, which is like a play, musicals, not musical, but dance, poetry, choreography thing, which was this arc of my life. And it was called Plum Sugar,
Mm.
The Rise of Lauren Anderson. 40 shows at Stages Repertoire Theater, right here. And it was a hit. And it was me now telling the story of the three husbands, the guy that beat me up, ballet, drug addiction, and how I got out of how I rose through all that.
Oh, that's awesome.
That changed my life because I can be in recovery out loud
Yeah.
and help a lot of people. Like, so then I spoke at the count. I mean, so that changed my recovery has changed my life in a big way, but being out loud, not screaming from the mountaintops, but everybody knows because everybody watched, as a dancer. I didn't realize how the whole company was watching me just hit bottom.
Mm.
And that behind the scenes, there was going to be this intervention on one side. And there were all these things that people were thinking, how do we help her?
Yeah.
How do we help her? While still shoving me back out there to be the thing.
Mm.
Or me going back out. They weren't shoving me.
Sure.
Allowing me, I should say, allowing me to get out there and still be the ballerina. If I could keep that up, which I did as much as I could. But
yeah, I mean, I feel like folks who want to support, oftentimes there's a certain degree of paralysis that I feel like that comes with wanting to jump in, whether you're a prima ballerina or you are dad, you know what I mean, or mom.
anybody,
It's just
yeah,
you got, which is why I on this, even on this podcast, like I think it's important for folks who aren't even the ones who are directly in the eye of the storm to hear our stories, because folks who want to help us need to understand that, like, we're approachable, you know what I mean, so long as we have a space that is non-judgmental and is truly there to to help. But I guess that,
it can be scary though.
yeah,
It can be scary to think, and the approach, and it's interesting, and it takes a lot of ego. You have to leave your ego at the door, and that's the hardest part because you want to help so badly,
yeah,
but we can't do nothing.
yeah,
I mean, there's nothing. We're not in control of that. We can All we can do is give the opportunity or the resources,
yeah,
but the decision
comes with the
really
person.
it has to.
Yeah, yeah,
It's that moment of, as you probably know, that moment of surrender. Like I had my WTF moment with a crackhead on one side and people bleeding over. I mean, it literally took all of that. Like I had to be shaken, slapped.
those moments are like when you were recounting that moment for yourself, like I saw you back in that cell looking at all those people,
I was just,
around you. You don't forget. I mean, as we were talking coming in, like I had that moment. I was like, I got to do something different here. Otherwise, like, and I knew exactly where I was and what I was.
but you don't even know what it is, but you know it's not what you're doing.
Yep. Yeah.
It just needs, yeah. And the amazing thing is, um, I felt like if you knew me, you wouldn't like me.
Mm.
If you really knew me, I wouldn't be enough. I'm not enough. I'm not enough. I'm not enough. And come to find out, and I'm gonna be honest about this. Nobody's thinking about me. Nobody's thinking about you. Nobody. We are all so selfish. Everyone's really just thinking about themselves. And if yeah, I've come to find out. I don't have to have on these red bottom shoes. I can wear these chucks to this black tie thing. I'm in New York. I'm in a boot right now.
Okay.
I'm in a boot on my right foot because I walk. I took a step and I walked. I took a step. I was in point shoes for 44 years. Ankles were fine. April 15th, this past year, I took a step and something in my ankle. So I'm in this boot.
Mm.
I'm in New York. I've got this, it's the Youth America Grand Prix. I am on the jury. I'm judging. I'm doing all this stuff. I'm at the Met. It's a gala thing. I have my ankle is this big. I cannot put on this pump.
Mm.
This Louboutin is not making it to the party. I'm in pink chucks,
Nice.
pink chucks with this outfit, and honey, nobody even. It. I
Dude,
was still.
that's awesome.
It. I mean, if you think about just that, I'm at the Met, Lincoln Center, New York, darling, at this thing, stars thing. And I'm like, girl, you look great. And I hiked up my dress to go. They were like, oh my God, what a great idea. Oh, these shoes are killing me. Why did I not think? I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
you don't even think it. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. We're all thinking about ourselves.
Yeah, they're like,
Everyone's
why
so
did I
selfish.
slip my feet into these Louis? When she's rocking these chucks and they look fantastic.
Comfortable. She running. She running.
That's awesome.
She's running. No, but I mean, it was just interesting to, and a lot of that I know comes with maturity. When you're a normie, when I say you're not an alcoholic or addict, and everything I know now I learned in kindergarten, and that's all great. But the reality is, if I hadn't gone the path that I'd gone, I would not be this grateful um, contributor, positive contributor to society that I am today.
Yeah.
And I would not be able to help. Not that I'm, the helper. I'm not saying that. It's just I wouldn't be able to relate, or you wouldn't be able to relate to me to where it can help us both.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot to be said about the term of sobriety, the term and the process of recovery, but it is also, in my opinion, like a very specific type of evolution that someone goes through over the course of like developing themselves through this very specific path that you would never and cannot be on unless you've gone through some other shit, right? And
That's right. That's right.
and
That's right.
so I think for like for someone who's out there thinking about where they're at, there's there assuming you can get to a place where you can get some help and start addressing this, there are some developmental benefits that can come your way by way of all the dark days that you spent inside, right? Like you've obviously done amazing things in the last 15 years, none of which would have probably been possible, right, had you had not pursued this new road that opened up for you, even though like maybe at the time it was court mandated, but you stayed on it, right? And now
Right.
you're in a whole different place of life that maybe you didn't even envision back in the early 80s.
Never. 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 On day 366 was the most important day for
I
me.
was going to ask you, what did that look like when you no longer had the court hovering over your head?
Let me tell you, I freaked out.
I bet.
I was like, you know what? I need to go to an AA meeting. I got to go to an AA meeting. I'm going to drink today. Right. And that was not the case. It was just, I needed to know that I could do this without the mandate.
Yeah.
And then once I did that, the interesting thing is I liked where I was. I not just the getting things back, but I could sleep.
Mm.
I could actually sleep and not it. Yeah, I'm like, have I not slept for 44 years? I mean,
Yeah.
because I'm 59. I got sober at 44. I had a 6-year-old kid, and I was trying to figure out what I was going to drink or do before going to teach your kids dance.
Right.
That's where I was when I got sober.
Wow. So
And
I was
today,
gonna say, where are you today? What's going like? Where are you at?
so I said I was never going to get married again. Well, um, I got married. I am remarried, and this is the first relationship that I've been in where he met me at the beginning, and I'm the same person he met when he met me.
Mm.
My representative, I fired her about 8 or 9 years ago, um, and I don't bring her anywhere.
Mm.
She doesn't come with me. She, you know, I've since then I've met a lot of amazing. I've done some really cool stuff. I've met some amazing people, and they have never met my representative. They've just met Lauren Anderson, the person,
Mm-hmm.
right? Just my crazy, quirky self that actually I brought to the stage, but I didn't bring to my life.
Mm.
It's um, yeah, and now she lives out loud, and it's wonderful, and I love it, and I'm at peace. It's a strange, interesting peace. My son, who's 21, and is in his last year of college at Florida State University, is a quite accomplished percussionist. Don't say drummer. He's a percussionist.
Okay.
Uh, play drums on my play. He knows the story. Well, I told it to him that night in middle school, but he knows the story.
Mm-hmm.
And he went to college in Florida, and I said, "You know the deal. You know the deal. You do whatever you got to do. Enjoy your life, but just know if you ever need that, I can get you resources in it, and I'm not the one. I will not be the one helping you through that type of journey,
Yeah.
but I can get you somebody that can, right?"
Yeah. Ha-
So I don't, and I've washed my hands. I let that go, and that's that.
mm.
And it's a peaceful place for a parent to not worry about that.
Yeah.
I don't worry about it. I don't know how that happened, but I don't.
Well, it's out in the open, right? I mean, it's not. It's not.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of parents. I mean, I'm a parent of two really, really young ones, and I even think about it from my perspective. Like, what am I going to do in, 20 years from now when they're kind of in that window? Hopefully, 20 years from now, how am I going to deal with it? And I feel like, it's part of the dialogue. It's part of the conversation, and I feel like a lot of families just don't even talk about it. Can't get into it because there's so much stigma that's, and maybe even like stigma within your own family, so they're not,
Oh,
they're not
absolutely,
touching it.
absolutely. And I think in the black community, there's stigma and oh, a lot of that. Oh, well, they're just, you know, oh, well, that's just Uncle Johnny. He's just, and it's like, no, that's Uncle Johnny ain't just, Uncle Johnny is raising hell in the family and tormenting the so and so and whatever. Uncle Johnny needs to stop this, and we need to cut Uncle Johnny off.
Yeah. And Uncle Johnny is probably dealing with some shit that nobody's talking about, which,
That nobody's talking
you know what I
about.
mean? So like there's the alcohol and then there's all the stuff that's behind it. And where does that come from? And who else in our family has that touched? Um,
Yeah, because when I think about it, and the stories that I hear, and the people that I talk to, I've never heard anybody say I drank just because I just drank
no,
when they're in recovery.
no.
When I was drinking, I drank in there just because. But when you're in recovery or getting, I don't ever hear that thing of, well, actually, it's because I felt this, 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 and this,
Yeah.
or yeah, that discovery of what's going on the inside.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that's at an individual level. And then I think for us specifically, that's at a cultural level, right? Like I have this like this thought that comes to my mind oftentimes that silence is not a coping mechanism. And I think that that's very much the case both from an individual perspective and then also for us culture. There's a lot that we try to tamper down by just not addressing it out loud, culturally speaking, and it's just and that in itself can be a cancer both to the individual and to our culture.
Preach.
You know,
That's exactly right. I agree. I agree. So there's this wonderful sober Black girls network
oh,
that
I
I
love
just
them.
found. I just found them. They're coming to Houston. And I'm gonna help them. I'm gonna actually they don't know it, but I'm gonna buy them the barbecue that they need to
Oh,
have
that's
because I don't
awesome.
want them to go get this janky stuff from the other side of town. I'm going to the hood. I'm gonna get that money back to them. It's a full circle thing, and they're gonna get some real good barbecue because they don't even know what they're doing in Dallas. They don't know what they're doing up there. So I'm looking forward to hooking up with them. I mean, this is yeah, and I would have never even thought that I would enjoy just being.
Mm, I love it. I love it. Well, Lauren, you are certainly an OG. You know, and I truly truly value your unapologetic, you know, nature when it comes to expressing your journey. I think you obviously have already helped a lot of people, and we're at this interesting intersection. I think in this conversation where you're going to have an opportunity to help even more people, right?
I hope so.
And I think that that's super special, and I appreciate you coming on to Stacking Days to share your story with us and with me. You know, it means a lot. I got two questions for you as we kind of close this down here. The one question is, when you were in your darkest days, how would have someone have known that you were struggling if you didn't let them know explicitly?
Well, I think okay. So I would say I wouldn't have ever let them know. I'm gonna be honest with you. I wouldn't have told anybody.
Yeah,
I that the wheels had to have fallen off because I wasn't gonna tell anybody. I kept denying it. Um, but they saw it. A lot of people around me saw it.
yeah,
They told me afterwards. Right.
yeah.
I mean, and
At a certain point, you can't
yeah,
hide things.
certain points you just can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last question I have for you. For someone
Okay.
who's sitting there listening to this conversation and they've evaluated in their own the relationship with alcohol and they're saying, I think I got a problem here. I need to address things before they get further out of hand than they already are. What would you suggest the first step be for that individual?
Um. Okay. Oof. Okay. You first of all, you can't do this by yourself. This is not something you can do by yourself. You see what you've done by yourself. Do you see what you've done by yourself?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think it just depends on the degree of because some people need to actually go to a detox.
Yeah.
And then I think okay, now everybody doesn't believe in God, and everybody doesn't believe in this or that. But I think a non-denominational uh, group of some sort. I think the people, the unity. No, what is it called? Uh, not the unity, but the fellowship.
Yep.
Fellowship is important. So finding people that are not drinking or not drugging or not doing whatever it is that you're doing is important. If I hadn't found people to show me the way, if I hadn't found, because I wasn't like you, I couldn't just say, okay, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that. And I already have an exercise program. I just go to work.
Yeah.
I I just go to work. I come to work and I exercise. It's just part of my thing.
Yeah.
I'm already around people all the time. I was the loneliest person around 2,000 people that I've ever met in my life. But you got to find. I really feel that a fellowship of some sort, or if a church thing is what you need, then go. I I really think just know that there are people that feel just like you.
Yeah.
There's nothing you have done, not a thing you have ever done that someone hasn't done that's worse.
Mm.
So whatever it is that you've done, however far down you are not alone. You're not the only person that's been that far. There are people that have been further. There's always somebody whose story is worse than yours.
Yep.
And you're not alone. Reach out. And stack days, baby. Stack days.
Man, well, look, Laura, with that, where can folks find you today and follow all the beautiful things that you're involved in?
Okay, wait, what is it? Official Lauren Anderson
Cool.
on Instagram or on the other thing, Facebook, and I don't X or tweet or whatever it's called.
Okay.
I don't. I just don't. I can't. Because I don't, you know why? Let me tell you why. Because I'm not a texter. I talk my text.
Mm.
So I talk into my phone and post and then send a picture
I
or
love
whatever.
that.
I mean, I edit, but yeah.
Well,
Official Lauren Anderson.
I will say also, I mean, a picture, tells, says 1,000 words. And one of the more recent ones that you posted on 15 years, where you're kind of, I love that. It was just so beautiful.
Yes.
So, everyone who's listening, go check Lauren out. Lauren, thank you so much for coming on Stacking Days, sharing your story. I just, as I said before, really appreciate it. I think you're, an extremely beautiful woman and fantastic in sharing your story with the world, and just continue to make an impact. I know that you're going to, but just behind you 100%.
Thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed it.
Awesome. All right, y'all. That's it for this week. We'll see you soon to continue the conversation. Peace. I appreciate you guys listening to the Stacking Days podcast. I hope this episode added value to your recovery and wellness journey. Before we go our separate ways, let's connect on social. You can find us on TikTok and Instagram at Stacking Days, or via the website www.stackingdays.com. By supporting the show, you can play a direct role in amplifying people of color in their pursuit of recovery. The easiest way to do that is to subscribe or hit the follow button. This way you'll never miss an episode, all while playing an active part in creating the ecosystem where diverse voices and healing matter. This show is for the purpose of education and connection and is not a replacement for therapy or recovery care. For more information on the resources and support available, take a look at SAMHSA and some other resources shared in the description. Until we meet again, be well, one day at a time.